What's up? It's Alex here with another episode of the Startup Secrets Show. Today I'm joined by Lucy Bedewi. Lucy, how are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
I'm fired up to have you. You're a young entrepreneur who's not only gained a lot of experience quickly, but someone who's very relatable. And so, as people know, my story and my first two businesses completely failed, lost thousands of dollars. Talking to Lucy here, her first business might not have been as complete a failure as that, but understanding, what she took away and from our talks before, but also the thinking that went into it. So, Lucy, if you want to talk about your first foray into entrepreneurship, the why behind it, what did work, what didn't, and maybe what you learned from it.
Yeah, absolutely. So my first business I started when I was kind of midway through college. I want to say I was 21-ish, and I wanted a side project. And I thought, well, if I can start this business, then I don't have to get a job after college. So I've always loved fashion. I worked at American Eagle. I felt like the coolest kid when I was 16. I also worked at Banana Republic. So I felt really qualified. I mean, like as qualified as a 21-year-old is. And I started a fashion styling business called Wanderlust Wardrobe. And my main goal was to help women of all different shapes and sizes and life seasons find clothes that just felt really good to them. So what I thought is I would follow a similar model to Stitch Fix, and I would give them an outfit every month. Well, of course, I don't have Stitch Fix infrastructure, so I was just giving it to them on Google Slides and being like, here's the links, go get your outfit. And I absolutely loved being able to serve women, and I love fashion. So it just seemed like the perfect marriage of my passions into a job. Well, I didn't think at all about business model or how I'm actually going to be making money. So I was spending hours on every woman's outfit, like charging pennies for it. So obviously that was one of the reasons why it didn't work out. But I also decided to become a fashion stylist right when COVID started. So it kind of worked. It was growing for the first 6 months to a year, but when COVID was in full force and people didn't want to look sexy for their house cat, the fashion stylist is the first to go. So that's kind of where I saw a lot of clients be like, hey, loved the work we did together, but I'm not in the need for my corporate clothes, or people are just going to sweatpants. So I just kept losing clients. And I think I also was losing steam because, like I said, I didn't have a sustainable business model. And I felt like even though I love fashion, I was capable of something more, something a little deeper, and I could use some more of my skills that I was getting to try some different things and explore some different online businesses.
Hey, I love that. And I was taking notes there because I love taking notes on the people I interview because I learned from you guys way more than I'm sure the audience does. I love listening. So in that, I want to touch on two things, right? So
Yeah.
number one, like you followed your passion. That is great. I love that because, and that is the truth is, whatever you do, you want to love it because it's going to be hard anyway.
Mm.
In that one instance, it didn't work because of timing, right? It sounds like COVID hit.
Yeah.
Outside of that, it sounded like you probably loved researching the outfit, styling. Like that's fun. Like I'm
Yeah.
the same. I have like passions. I'm still trying to learn how to monetize, but maybe they're not bringing as much to the marketplace at this time. And it's probably around timing. And so we want to talk about your copywriting experience because when you mentioned COVID, I thought, man, if you think about businesses, like you still have the market, you still have to sell. That's very
Yeah.
important. But businesses, whenever there's a recessionary environment, they usually cut that part of the spending, but they still need to do it. So they hire outside of their company because they try and save or X, Y, Z. And
Yeah.
so I'm sure you bring a lot of value in that way. Could you talk about before we get into the business side, the timing of getting into copywriting? Did you feel it was a good time? I'm not sure. I'm just totally rambling at this point.
Yeah, no, I mean, I wish I could give you like this beautiful answer of like, oh, I did this whole market analysis and saw that it was an amazing time to start a writing business. But the truth is I had just graduated college and I turned down all of the corporate job offers that I got. I got out of the interview, and as much as I wanted to psych myself up for a new job, I'm like, this is not where my heart is. Like, I'm meant to be an entrepreneur. I'm not sure what type, but I guess that part will come later. And I thought I would just have like this 3-month period to figure it out. I'm like, I'm a new grad, like who cares? And then COVID hit and I'm like, well, I'm not going to get a job for like a year. So I'm like, this is such a perfect time to like start a business. And if I'm going to fail, I'm going to fail hard. So that's kind of what got me into exploring different things. And I had been a writer my whole entire life. I was writing content in college. I was writing short stories when I was 9 years old. So I knew that was always a medium that I felt really comfortable with. So I essentially set up a Facebook page. It looked really sketchy. I put all of my writing samples on a singular Google Doc and just started sending it out to people who are hiring a copywriter. And miraculously, I got a few clients and I worked with them. I gave them my all. And from there, kind of just grew through that, like those small efforts.
Man, so sweet. And so that's so great because you're living at home maybe at this time.
I was living at home. Yep.
Right. So it seems like oh man, the world's shut down. Oh, what a bad time. It's an opportunity, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw this and I love that. So anyone who sees this, it's all about your mindset. Number one, right? We show a lot of failures on this show where people crash and burn, making mistakes. It's okay. A lot of success I'm seeing now and from your business now, that was about maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago when you first launched. I kind of want to, we're not going to get away from the struggles. We'll come back to the next questions around them. But what has happened, from that organic growth that, what has the last 2 years kind of been like?
Yeah. So they started out really hard. I mean, I talk about signing a couple clients, but when I talk about signing clients, it's like I was paid $100, $200 to do someone's monthly content. And I'm like, cool, I'm a writer making money, because I just had this idea that like a writer is not a viable profession. So it was a mix. It was a lot of like, oh my gosh, I got 8 rejections in one day. What if I'm not cut out for this? What if I have to go try and find a quote unquote real job? That was always my worry because I knew my heart was in entrepreneurship, but especially as a young woman out of college, just rejection was daily. And I was working 14 to 16 hours a day, just trying to get my name out there. Totally unsustainable. I do not subscribe to hustle culture now, but sometimes it's necessary when you're in those first 2 to 3 months of the throes of a new business or a project. And I feel really fortunate that I had that time to just truly hyper focus on it and throw myself into it.
Not to interrupt, but that's very interesting to me. So you're saying, so within say 2 to 3 months, that's when you start to get some traction. You start to see things work. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so before we go on, I'm seeing a lot of success. People can check out your page. We'll link it below. And we're going to talk about it as well. What do you think that you did really well in those first 2 to 3 months that you look back and say, man, I really got a lot out of this? I mean, obviously the posting and was it that like?
I think the number one thing, I'm pretty open about the fact that I matched proposed corporate salaries 3 months after I started my business. And I think for those first 3 months, what I prioritized was just being so visible. I would go on Facebook groups with female entrepreneurs in them. And anytime someone asked a question that was remotely related to copywriting, I was in that comment section, not pitching, but just straight up giving my 2 cents, giving value. And then I would strike up a conversation with them over Messenger, and sometimes they'd become a client and sometimes they wouldn't. But it was that just spending tons of time on social platforms, expanding my network, hopping on a coffee call over Zoom with literally anyone who would talk to me, and just kind of having that young and hungry mindset.
And so that's a passion there. So that's really hard to replicate for a job that's just a job to you.
Yeah.
Right? Because people can feel it. Like if you like something, like, man, I'm smiling. This person's smiling too. This is good. I like this,
Absolutely. Yeah. It's so much easier to put in like the 14 to 16 hour days if you're doing something for yourself than if you're working for something that your heart's not in.
Man, because I can just think to my own experience. Are you doing LinkedIn pretty well? Pretty good, savvy?
Yeah, kind of.
Well, you get these like the LinkedIn in-mails where it's like, hey, I do this and I can do it for so good. And here's the money. Here's what I'm going to get from it. And it's like there's no, you didn't reach out to me. Like the way you're telling me, you built a relationship with these people.
Absolutely.
You helped them, versus like just direct response. And so we can get into that copywriting thinking. That's why I love brand building more, because it's just, you're filling up a cup and this and that. And before we go on to your story though, I want to ask you this. Did you get any formal like training or coaching in entrepreneurship from maybe not one-to-one, but anyone you studied like really and said, this guy's good, I want to copy this guy or this girl or whoever?
Yeah. I'm actually super against that.
Ooh, let me hear this.
Let's get spicy. So I never subscribed to the guru, this is the person whose course you need to take. This is the copywriter who makes 8 figures, so we all need to write like him. from the get-go, I was like, I'm going to hone into my voice, my sense of humor, my slight level of sassiness, and I'm going to use that to build brands. So of course I have to talk about the fact that I have a formal marketing education. I was in an entrepreneurship accelerator. So the idea of starting a business wasn't square one for me. But becoming a copywriter, that I did all intuitively and just thought to myself, like, what would I want to read on the internet? I would want to laugh and feel like someone kind of sees me and gets me. And I don't want to be pushed to with a sale. I want to be connected with. So I just took all of those principles and made those cores of my brand.
Ooh, that's a good takeaway. I don't want to be pushed to a sale. I want to be connected with.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think people want to buy. No one wants to be sold to.
That's a good takeaway. Thank you. And so as you broke through that 2 to 3 month period, I guess snapping back the timeline.
Yeah.
Say the next 6 to 9 months, what was that like? What did you see or encounter?
For sure. So the next 6 to 9 months are what I consider to be hyper growth, less in terms of scaling the business and more in terms of reframing my mindset for who I'm going to be in this space. So that is when I invested in a professional brand, a professional website. I got software that made it so when I onboard new clients, it looks really professional. And mentally, I went from the place of I'm no longer a hustling college student, but I am a CEO stepping into this business. So I made it so that I can raise my prices to charge my worth, and also that I was able to cut down on the amount of time I was spending in my business and finally call my friends again.
I like that a lot, man. So what I can hear from you is, so I want to ask you here about your experience in Entrepreneurship Accelerator and your informal background, because it sounds like you didn't skip, but you avoided mistakes a lot of people make, like undercharging for a while because they think they're not worth it, or understanding the value of having the systems in place. Because unless you know something is not sustainable, like you're gonna keep trying to work as hard as possible and not. Because I've spoken to people who have made those mistakes. Would you credit that Entrepreneurship Accelerator, or what would you kind of credit those?
Yeah, I think it's multifaceted. I feel like I feel fortunate that I'm always one of those people that just is like hyper efficient, probably to a fault, where I'm like, okay, if something's not working, we need to fix it. But I feel lucky that I had the model of seeing my mom start her own business. She's a therapist and she started her own private practice. So she was able to say things to me like, hey, you realize your hourly rate doesn't just go for the things that you're writing for people. She's like, you have to make sure it covers onboarding, research. So just like simple tips that I got from her, really helped because I was living with her. And then the accelerator was just absolute gold for just building a sustainable business model and always checking in with myself and being like, is this working? I think that reflection piece is huge, because if you're just in the weeds every day doing client work and you never step outside of your business and think, okay, well, where is this going? How do I feel? Is this working? Then it's really easy to just kind of spiral into a business that's not set up for growth.
Wow. So I'm taking note there. I want to come back to that because I could really see value, and we may talk about this off camera, teaching that. That's valuable. A lot of people might think mindset coaching or whatever is not in that space where you're getting your head right or knowing the tactics. If people are just work harder, it's no, you need more than that.
No, yeah, it's so much deeper than that. I wish it was just pour in work, but the issue is when you're pouring in work, usually you're not actually making progress. You're just having the illusion that you're working really hard and moving forward, even if those tasks that you're carrying out aren't helping you scale.
Absolutely. And so this show, I want people hear this, do that work that's you're scared of. Don't just update your website, and reach out to people, get rejected. That's the stuff, because I can definitely, I don't see the value there. So going back after that first year now you're in year 2, you're probably just wrapped up year 2. Is that right?
Yeah, I always forget exact timelines. I'd be really bad at memorizing anniversaries. But I want to say I'm probably around that 2 year. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay, so if you get a dog, I'll have to send you email remind yourself to celebrate your dog's birthday today. He's gonna remember. They're gonna remember, and
they're gonna feel
it. So that first year, seeing what works, it works. Okay, great. now, if I see correctly, hiring a team, year two, like what happened next? Because I want to keep chronicling these pieces because I want not only for myself but others here. What you do has to change a little bit. They're still offering the same core services, but you might
Yeah.
not be doing the everything it used to be.
Yeah. So around, I want to say 1 year, 2 months, I decided to do something that I think was the craziest decision I did in my business. I decided that taking on large projects was taking up a lot of my brain space. And I was having a hard time like seeing client red flags or just kind of knowing like how long a project would take from the get-go. So I'm like, I don't think this is really the model for me. So I started offering VIP writing days where I marketed that I'm going to write your entire website in one day, in 6 hours. At the end of the day, your site's going to be good to go. And at first I was like, I don't know if people are going to want 1 day sites, but then I started getting a few clients and then it just totally snowballed from there. I realized that it's not just me who doesn't want long project timelines. It's clients that are like, I can't plan for my launch 3 months in advance. And then my favorite copywriter is booked out. So people would just come to me and be like, emergency, I'm launching. Can you write 20 emails for me? And I'm like, yep, book a day. So that kind of turned into my signature offer. So I think that was one of the main reasons why I was able to scale, because when you're working with people in VIP days, you're not carrying that mental load of, oh my gosh, I have to get that out to this person for edits. And you have more space to take on more clients, obviously, but also do that important CEO work in your business.
Absolutely right. Because the work, the production, the writing is critical. There's also finances. There's also managing people. There's other things
Yeah,
that can really get you if you're not aware.
absolutely.
And so I want to ask you this, this is not just like the work, right? And it's also the human. Like what time periods would you say are your most effective hours for work?
Oh, this is a tough one because like I'm also a digital nomad. So I travel all the time. So the main thing though is like, I don't think my traveling should make someone have to stay up till 2 a.m. So no matter where I am in the world, I'm working Eastern hours. So if I'm in East Asia, then I turn nocturnal and I actually
Yeah.
really like nights. I think the thing I struggle with the most is like waking up at 5 a.m. and being functional. My hours shift depending on where I am, what season of life I'm in, where the client is. And my main thing is I think I can really be productive at any time of the day. It's just a matter of making sure I'm not working too many hours in a week, because then I can just start to feel a little bit burnt out.
That's an interesting way of thinking about that. And that might be a limiting belief I have, right? Because personally, like I think I did like one of the sleep studies, and it's like I rise with the sun and I work best from 10 to 2. The reason I
That's
asked that
like
question,
definitely the healthiest. Like, let's just put that out there. I don't think it's healthy to be working till 3 in the morning.
but who
So
says it's
yeah.
unhealthy to do something you don't align with? A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
It's trade-offs in life, economics. And so in that, the question I would ask you is, so those super days, how many of those are you able to do in a month, right? Or do you do in a month? Just curious. This is not even.
Yeah. So perfect number is 10 a month. There was 1 month I decided to do 15 and that almost killed me. But you gotta hit your limit to know where your limit is. And so as I kind of move through these super days and these VIP experiences, I want to start expanding into like audits and a template shop. So I'm assuming those days will eventually become a little bit fewer, but I'm also the kind of person where if someone has a launch coming up and I have space, I'm not going to say no. Like I want everyone in my world to be successful. So I find myself sometimes overcommitting, but I shamelessly love it.
I love that. Yes. And you mentioned the auditing piece. There's a spicy piece of information we're going to drop here in a second. But I do want to ask you around, the business operations side.
Yeah.
This is going to be less mindset. It's going to be more tactics here for those
Mm-hmm.
in the audience who maybe are in it and are looking to scale and grow. Is there a balance you're trying to strike? For example, we can talk about niches or types of, because I saw some of the clients you work with on your LinkedIn there.
Yeah.
When you're doing those 6 hour, hey, we're going to get this out. How much of it is it custom, and how much do you have SOP where it might be like, here's a design of the website. You guys maybe pick one of three, and then we kind of fill in with, our authentic copy. Or, what has been that journey around, the SOPs or things that do work that are repeatable and scalable, but might not be unique every time. Because there has to be some level of that. And maybe it's not in what you put on the website, but it could be in processes.
Yeah. So the onboarding is like super standard. They get a specific amount of questionnaires so I can read through their business the night before and I can start like marinating on how I want to approach their website or their sales copy. And then I also do a strategy call the night before so I can take that information, put it into my brain, and then just drink tea and kind of think about it before I hop into their day the next day. When it comes to the actual day, it really is fully custom copy. I do have a couple outlines that I use. I'm a big believer in not writing from a blank Google Doc because that's super stressful. So I'll write out like header, subheader, maybe right here we'll do like a section where we connect to their ideal client. So I will mentally kind of throw that onto the page using the first hour of their day. And then from there, it's all custom writing with their custom tone that I'm creating throughout the day.
Yeah. Okay. I love that because, you are creating their brand. You're helping them.
Mm-hmm.
So by nature, you're going to be less McDonald's and more, Steak 50 or Ocean 55, or I can't remember the name.
Fancy steakhouse.
Fancy steakhouse. And so as we, get closer to the end here, I did have a couple questions I wanted to make sure I asked because I was so interested in, the direction here. And so one that's asked is pretty standard is, as you've clearly been growing and doing well, not only for yourself and your business, what are some goals in the next 12 months that if we followed up, and I'd love to follow up with you and see, hey, here's where Lucy is now. Here's what you want to accomplish. What are some, I don't want to look too far ahead. This is pressure. I recognize that. but is there anything in particular you do set your eye on in the next year?
Yeah, I definitely want to get a template shop up and running. That is something that is really close to my heart because a lot of new business owners cannot afford copywriters, or if they do have a budget for copy, sometimes it's not budget for the right copywriter they need. And I want to be mindful of that because one of my main missions is to help a lot of people who are starting their businesses start it off right and scale rapidly. And you need solid messaging to do that. So the template shop would just be a really accessible way for people to come into my world and get my wordy secrets, but not at such a high price point. So in terms of offers, that's definitely there. And then in terms of a personal goal, I love talking to people and I love being able to meet people like you. So definitely I want to just be able to go to more events and speak on more podcasts and just kind of get myself out there and meet people and just make it so that people do know the value of personality packed writing, because I think it's not talked about enough. Everyone's like persuasion, sales techniques, but the truth is by leaning into who you are and writing from your heart and really connecting with the people around you, that copy is going to be the one that scales you to 7 figures.
I like that a lot because it is hard when you don't see a lot of people, and so I'm happy to have you on as a representation of, hey, you can be you, and just like do this and you can make money and you can do what you want in your life and you can do it. You can do it.
Absolutely.
And so is there, as we get into the end here, we're going to make sure we do that plug there. Are there any challenges or anything that you see, because we do want to be authentic, or you're obviously being authentic the whole time. Is there anything that you would look ahead and say, here's something I've got to struggle with, or something I can see I'm looking to overcome as a problem?
Yeah, I think my main problem is I'm in just uncharted waters. Like I have always been a person who sells services. So creating a product and like testing that market, it's new. So it could be a thing where I think people would benefit from these templates, but if it's not positioned well, people won't see the value. So I think a lot of my struggles are going to come more in the market research and making sure that this new leg of my business is viable. And it might not be. And, at that point, we'll just figure it out and pivot and go from there. But I think more of the deeper challenges I see happening is definitely when it comes to getting my personal brand out. There's always going to be that part of me that's worried about hate or worried about, coming across as too much or over the top. And when you put yourself out there, you are essentially making yourself a target for people who want to tear you down. And as much as I want to say like, oh, I'm going to have such thick skin and none of that's going to matter, it does matter. And I think a lot of us, especially when we lead our business with our heart, it's sometimes really hard to take criticism, even if it's from people who are criticizing you from a bad place. So I just think that's going to be my mindset challenge to get over, is just be like, this is what I want to do. I have to approach it full steam ahead. And, if people say stuff, then they're going to say stuff. So just do my best.
That's right. Screw 'em. And so that's also, I think, something that's really applicable to people are in our age group before 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a lot of like imposter syndrome or struggle where it's like, I don't have 15 years of experience doing this, but like I did everything in this and I'm better than you at it, because not because I'm just demonstrating I'm better, but I had to do all these things. I can explain specifically why this is better for you. Just got to just listen to me, and so sometimes it can be difficult getting that ear. But I feel like anyone who listens or you get their ear, you're going to drive value for them.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And as we talk about driving value, we're wrapping up here, there is a spicy offer I want to throw out to those in the audience. Lucy?
Yes. So at the start of 2022, I just wanted to have fun. So I was thinking, well, what's a great middle offer that I could give people who are DIYing their copy, but they want professional eyes on it before they hit post. So I came up with copy roasts. And essentially what they are is they are a zesty audit for business owners who want me to go into their copy, pick it apart, but also provide actionable solutions and verbal edits so that when they do go click post and their copy is posted, they feel really confident that it's set up to scale their business and it's also going to make them memorable.
I love that last piece too, being memorable, because you need to connect with people. Copy roasts. I said coffee.
No, it's okay. It's a total tongue twister. I feel like anything that has copy and then something that remotely goes with copy, it's like, I'm going to end up saying coffee. And it's like, okay, I'm a barista now. That's cool.
Listen, you can do anything. The energy I get from you, I believe in you. I believe you can do whatever you set your mind to.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So Lucy, I want to appreciate you coming on the show today. As we wrap up here, this is another episode of the Startup Secrets Show. Today, Lucy Bedewi was my guest today. And until next time, guys.